Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Beginner to Expert. This is part 28 Angular 7 tutorial. So this is basically continuation of part 27. So in this session I will discuss rest of the things, how to read the JSON and bind the generate the fields and validate the fields dynamically. Okay, so let's get started. Now I will design that layout. So according this mock-up, I will design this. First thing, I will use the bootstrap 4 to design the layout. So for that, first container fluid. Okay, so inside this, first thing I will use that label to show name, email, phone, this kind of label. Here you can see one row will have multiple column. I will loop through on column. So here I will use that service dot one public property I kept inside this service, that is called fields. So these fields will have that JSON array. So let field of this, and I will consider another more property here, that is called call index. This index, and this will be this field dot that display code. Okay, let me open that mockup. Okay, so here you can check that display code, as it is unique, and then I will use I will consider underscore to make it more appropriate, uniquely identified. Yeah, so here call index, then it would be like name underscore call index. So here display code is name, then name underscore call index. Okay, and here I will print that field dot this display name. Okay, then I will use here switch case ng, here ng switch. If you type and press tab, it will automatically generate the cases. Here instead of when, I will use the case because that when already deprecated. So I will pass here attri, sorry, field dot, here I kept one attribute type. So depending based upon that attribute type, we will generate the fields. Here text box, if any field is coming related to text box, then I will use that input type text, and I will use the class bootstrap form control sm. And next thing I will use ngModel, and for ngModel I will use that field dot that display code, and if we use ngModel, then we should use the name attribute. So for that, field dot, Okay, similar thing. I'll copy and paste it. Okay, so name, then I will use that required attribute. So for required attribute also we have that is required property, and similarly I will use for disabled. So here everything will be dynamic. So later on if we want to change anything, so we need to change in JSON only. So remains code will be same. Okay, here I will use disabled, and next thing I will use the pattern. Okay, so here pattern, this for field I kept one property for pattern. Here you can check, then min length and max length. So min and max length, those are the HTML5 attribute for input field dot this, copy for max length as well. Okay, okay, now let us build that application and check that fields is coming or not. Okay, but one more thing, we need to create another container component to hold this registration control. For this I will go to that pages and dashboard. Okay, let me build this as well. cd pages dashboard. Now that register book container been created, and this module will have register that book container component. And here what I need to do, that register book module, we need to register inside this container, because this container is going to hold holds that register book, that component. For that I'll use this. Okay, now I will open this register book container. Okay, before that I will configure that routes changes. Okay, here I will register that as router module for child, because this container will load on the runtime, that is dependency injection. Then let me open the dashboard module. Okay, so this dashboard module will have that load children one. Here register book and register book container. If you are new with this routing, then go to my previous video. So there I already discussed about this routing and lazy loading part. Dot module. container. Okay, now save all the page. Okay, now that application has been built, now open that login. Okay, so under controls, so I kept one menu that is register book. Now some error is coming, I think. Okay, nothing is going on here. Okay, so let me check that navigation here. Register book, router link. Oh, sorry. So as this is not an variable, so we should not decorate the router link as in the bracket. Save now. Okay, now you can check. Nothing is coming. Okay. It's the register book container. Here we didn't add anything. So okay, here I will use card. So this is basically bootstrap card. So that card will have header and foot body as well. This header, for header I will use here user as per mockup user registration. Okay, and inside this I will use this component element. Okay, and I will pass the input as for. I'm going to fetch the fields for user, and I will pass it as string. And I will copy the same for another employee. Okay, here I will use emp. Okay, now save the page, open the browser. Okay, so here you can check that user registration and employee registration uh, already generated. So all the for user registration we kept 4 fields, and 4 fields are all text boxes. And here employee registration we kept 6, but here 5 came. And another for select is not came into this picture as because we didn't write any condition for select. Okay, now let me open that this HTML. Here we have written only for text boxes. So similarly we have to write that select box. Here instead of input I will use the select. Okay, and here also I will use that select end tag. And what are the things I need to change here? I will need to remove the type text, and here I will use that option tag. And value I will decorate this with attribute. So here if I field, okay, let me open that mock emp registration. if you come down, select. So here we kept, options. So I will loop through this option tag with this array. I will keep option of field dot options, and this option is having that code. So if you go to that JSON, here you can check title and code is there. So for value purpose I am using the code, and here to show the title, field dot title. Okay, now save the page, open the browser. Okay, some error actually coming, that unexpected closing tag. Okay. Okay, here I missed out the double quotes. Let me log in again, go to that register book control. Now here you can check that value is coming, but here something going wrong, that text is not coming. Okay, so before that let me change this style. uh, Account layout CSS, I'll comment this, and here as well. Now save this. Okay, now here you can check, uh, as per mockup we have generated the fields, and the only things is pending, that is field button section. Okay, so to achieve that, what we need to do, here I will use another row, and I will use for 100% width as on column, and I will use bootstrap that button group as small, and here I will use that button with class button small, button secondary outline, and here it will be padding left 2, padding right 2, and text uppercase. Okay, and text will be reset. So, and also type would be button. Similar I will copy for submit one. So here button type will be submit, and this button will be margin left 3, and this would be primary. Okay, and text will be submit. Okay, now save this. Good. So change full right, so button will be in the right side. Okay, now you can check. Okay, something you need to change the button, btn, and it would be rounded 0. So I need that flat button. That is why I don't want that round circle will come. Okay, now shape the page. Okay, now here you can check that everything is coming as expected, but a value here you can check that value is printed like name. So we missed out something here. So NgModel, actually we are using a display code, so instead of display code we need to use the value, because that value by default it is having blank in that JSON. So I need to change as well in this. Okay, so as of now we kept text box and select field. Okay, so later on you also can copy this section and paste it for other field as well, like radio, checkbox, as you want. Okay, now save the page. Now here you can check that everything come in as expected. Okay, so here all field has been generated. Oh, previous employer, the field is not coming itself. Oh, sorry, here instead of field I need to use that option. Here as well. Okay, that is having. And if we go to that JSON user registration, here required is required. So we need to check that required field dot is required. Okay, okay, now next thing, everything is populating properly. So now next thing is to uh, you know uh, check the validation on. Okay, and this submit button will be disabled if form is invalid. To achieve that, what we need to do, first we need to keep the reference for input form. Input form here ng form, as we discussed in earlier. So this input form will have that property whether it is valid or not. So for that I will use that disabled attribute. This form, sorry, this form dot invalid. If it is invalid, then it will be disabled. Okay, so save the page. Now you can check that hand symbol is not coming. That means this button is disabled, and also it changed that primary color with some opacity. Okay, now next thing we need to keep that input reference, as if I open that employee registration form here, as we discussed earlier, you can check here for a reference. For this input we kept one reference that is called name, and this name will have this input element reference, touched, dirty, whether it is errors is coming or not, everything will be there in that object. Okay, so for that, to achieve that, what we need to do, I will use the same thing here. Instead of there, as you can see, the all are the statics, name, email, phone. Okay, but in this scenario, actually this component will doesn't know how, means how JSON will come and what are the fields should come. Okay, so for that I will keep one common input reference, input ref, and here I will pass the NgModel, and this input will have you know the properties. Here I will check star ng if this input reference and input reference dot you know touch touched or dot dirty, then only that message will going to show. And here also I will check star ng if input ref dot errors dot required. Here I will display the message field dot. Now if I open that mockup, here you can check that property called error message. Error message will have that required property. I will copy paste for others. Here it will be mean length, max length, and last one would be like pattern. So for each and everything we already done, and here I will use on class text danger to print that message with red color, and for text box as well ng class. So here I will going to use dynamic class border danger. So text box will be with red color border. So here if that input reference is having any errors, okay. Now sorry, label, okay. Now save the page. Open okay, here I change something. Now you can check every field is now required as of now, because we kept in the JSON as every field will be required, but we need to change little bit. Here is required first name field is true, here email true, phone number we don't want phone number to be mandatory, and date of birth is mandatory. So now if you open the browser, now you can check that first three field is mandatory, indicating with the red color, okay. And here also three field is mandatory, phone number is not, okay. But for employee registration, phone number is mandatory. So for that, what we need to do, open that mockup for employee registration, and we'll change phone number as mandatory. So now you can check for record the things I'm changing in the JSON, it is reflecting in the UI. Okay, here you can check. So if I touch the phone number, you can check that method now message is coming. Okay, and button is disabled. Now if I change that, see, you can check that pattern also is working. Invalid email, minimum maximum, that message also is coming. And here if I check, okay, 98 and date of birth, okay. Now I will do for this employee registration as well, date of birth, Okay, now suppose this, now previous employer, like annual. Okay, here submit button is enabled, but here submit button is not enabled because something went wrong. Okay, I think this one only. If you open that HTML and the select, here we don't want to, should not add minimum and maximum length, that attribute validation, because the options, whatever options will be selected by user, that will be selected, so user will not change that. Pattern also is not required. Okay, okay, for select box also you need to copy this label, error message label, and I'll put it over here, and I will check this as well. Okay, now save the page, open the browser. Okay, now fill the required fields. Okay, now if I submit, okay, you can check that service is going to log here all the value, that Viswajit Chana, email, this all the value is coming. Okay, so now we need to filter the value and we need to send the service. Okay, now you should try by yourself it. And here also, if I type something, here type something, then also you can check here submit button is enabled, and this JSON is having 6 field, and each field you can expand and you can check. Here previous employer, now if I submit, now you can check what option is selected for. Okay, here Honeywell is selected for previous employer, so every value is coming inside this JSON. Okay, now next thing is only reset part. Okay, so once user click on reset, the fault means field should be reset with a blank value. So for that, what we need to do, so we need to open that service, register book service, and already we written that method. Just we need to check that HTML, are we attached or not, your button. Okay, you need to register on click event, register book service dot this method. Okay, now what we need to do, first thing here, just keep in mind, so whenever you are changing any value, field value, so that value also is reflecting a particular respective object with value property, because this value already binded to NgModel. Okay, so if now if I click on reset, and if we reinitiate the model, so now it's not possible. So what we need to do, so during fetching the fields, we need to keep a copy of the original. Okay, so as you know that JavaScript object is mutable. If you change anything, it will change others also. So to make it uh, immutable, okay, or you can say to make it a copy of this original fields, I will change the name as copy, and here I will keep it as private, and here this fields equal to, first what I need to do, dot stringify, then I need to pass the original JSON. So again, first we need to convert the object to stringify, then again we need to uh, convert that string to object. So if you do this, then so means it will help us to prevent the mutable. Okay, so it will make an immutable. Okay, so if you are not familiar with mutable and immutable, just go through Google and you can check what is that. So here fields copy will be original. So what we need to do here, this dot fields equal to this dot original copy. So original copy, so whenever user click on reset, the original copy will be initiated with the fields. Okay, now if you open the browser, if I set and if I reset, then you can check that field is going to reset. Okay, here as well. Okay, so this way we can generate, or we can read the JSON or fields, and we can populate the fields with automatically, okay, or dynamically you can say. Okay, so that's all for the day. So in my upcoming video I will show, means I will use the same things with the reactive form. Okay, so this is basically a template driven, but that would be reactive form with a dynamic way. Try it by yourself, and if you have any queries, then don't forget leave a message in the comment section below. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.